Muy buenas, queridos amigos de Spanish Bowl y amigas también. Tenemos en el canal pues a una persona que no necesita presentación, una de las mejores insiders de la NFL, por no decir de las que ha crecido últimamente más en la liga, en la NFL, National Football League, y es nada más y nada menos que Josina Anderson. Josina, ¿cómo estás? How are you?
I am well, thank you. Estoy bien. Yo puedo hablar un poquito de español, gracias por tener yo en tu, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se
Canal.
dice? Show, canal. Yeah, there you go.
Jos-
Está bien, yeah. Ujú.
Josina, ¿dónde aprendiste español?
Ok, yo aprendí español en un programa de inmersión cuando fue muy chiquitito, from kindergarten hasta el sexto grado. Así que yo estaba en una escuela donde todas las clases estaban en español, así que la ciencia, la matemática, la
Wow.
historia, y solamente en esta escuela tenía 45 minutos de inglés cada día. Y después cuando salió esta escuela, estaba en, como se llama aquí en los Estados Unidos, middle school, el 7, el 8 grado, estaba en revés. Así que en ese momento tenía 45 minutos de español y todas las clases fue en inglés. Así que cuando estaba muy chiquitito, yo podría hablar más mejor de cómo yo puedo hablar ahora, pero ahora yo puedo entender lo que está diciendo, aunque está hablando muy rápidamente, pero ahora mi gramática y mi vocabulario no está bueno.
Bueno, Yosina, la verdad es que es fascinante lo bien que hablas, un poco de práctica más y te
Ujú.
fichamos para NFL en español, NFL México, el
Yeah.
mundo NFL.
I know. Yo me gusta hacer pagar de muchas personas, yo puedo sacar de muchas personas, pero ahora vamos a hablar en inglés
Of course,
porque
of course.
es más mejor para ti. Pero
Well,
yo entiendo lo que está diciendo en el introduction y también lo que estaba diciendo ahí, pero ahora mi vocabulario es un poquito, no está muy bueno.
well, you know MG Acosta, she speaks fluent Spanish from Miami originally,
Okay,
so it's
okay.
many women in the league that you can practice.
Bilingual.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yosina, first of all, I mean, I remember when you become really, really on the, like in the media, like when you grow up more, I remember you, it was when, for example, when you say the signing by Golade by the Giants, you were the first one to say that. I remember that was say, okay, Josina Anderson, this woman, it's really powerful. It's taking power on the NFL. She knows things. But Josina, how you start this career in the NFL, in the side, to be like the one dissecting all the news and everything is happening on the league?
I started covering the NFL in 2002. Originally, I came into my professional career working in Oregon, but I was, not covering the NFL. I was doing high school sports in my first job out of college. And then, I was having a tough time getting a job to leave that market on the West Coast and come back to where I'm originally from on the East Coast.
Mhm.
So I left my job there, which you don't typically do in TV because it's so hard to get a job, as we all know. But I gave my 2 weeks notice. And the way I was able to get myself into the business was just by offering to work for free with the local county cable
Mhm.
channel. And so that's where my introduction into covering the NFL. I started covering the Washington. They were called the Redskins at the time. Obviously, Commanders now is more politically appropriate. But they were my first team that I covered professionally. And right away, it just, similar to what's been my personality, had a knack for connecting to people and was breaking news, even though I was a 22-year-old in the Washington, D.C. market. But I got there, which you wouldn't typically do at that age, but because I was working for free. So then that's how I was able to get into these shows and what have you. And then really quickly, when I left that market after 4 years and went to Denver, the joke about it is that I initially in DC was an NBA insider. And a lot of
Mhm.
people who know me from way, way back then understand that my career actually started mostly focusing on the NBA, but then I started to love the NFL more. By the time I went to Denver, I just, started breaking news on the Broncos right away, and then became, a very staunch insider in the Denver market at a time, Ruben, when,
Mhm.
back in in 2005, it wasn't really about breaking news, for someone in a local market. Typically, what the practice was, Ruben,
Mhm.
was to have a group of reporters go up to an athlete in the locker room and everybody get the same sound. And that was fine. But because I was in the DC market before Denver as a 22-year-old and watching the Michael Wilbons and the Steve Weisches and the John Mitchells and how they reported news in the Washington Post, which was to have all their separate stuff, I took that mentality into Denver and still was working to get my separate conversations when the group went away. And then obviously went to ESPN on the strength of what I had done in
Mhm.
Denver. Mhm.
Also now, Josina, you arrived to Fox, no? Win disputed with Skype Bayless. Congratulations for this
Thank you.
gig. I'm so happy for you. But how you see the space of the woman in the NFL insiding? You think it's starting to be more women's, to be more respected by the colleagues? How do you feel in this world majorly dominated by men?
Are you talking about as an insider or just in covering sports in general?
Insider, more insider.
As an insider, I would say it took time. When I was breaking news initially out of Denver, especially in the NFL, there was a lot of rebuffing to my news and people doubting the accuracy of what I was reporting initially because I wasn't a household or a national name or whatever you want to
Mhm.
say that people say, not that I'm saying about myself. And so other national reporters would either just disregard it, not give credit, which kind of obviously still happens, but to a lesser degree in comparison to back then, and or just would try to poo poo or just kind of downgrade the report. And I think over time, the more I was doing it, it became harder to not acknowledge the rate and the pace that was happening in Denver. And thankfully, Peter King and Jason Whitlock at the time wrote articles about me when I was in Denver and what I was doing that got the attention of Showtime and ESPN. I would say now, though, obviously, there are a number of, top 8, top 5, top 10 insiders that cover the NFL right now. Obviously, most of them being men. I would say that what makes it very difficult is that you cannot just stop in and be dropped in to being named an insider.
Mhm.
You don't become an insider by title. Becoming an insider is by years and years of equity on the ground and relationships and shaking hand and conversations and a resume of how you treat people and how those people then come back onto you when they don't have to
Mhm.
at all. They choose who they want to disseminate
Like you with
information
me,
to.
Justina. Like you with me,
There
exactly.
you go. There you go. They choose who they want, interviews, excuse me, who to give information to. And that's a history of how you've treated them, how objective you've been, how you've had conversations and not just made it about the news when you're calling, how you frame the news, how you notify them prior
Mhm.
to something coming out, all those things that build respect. But more importantly, Ruben, not just doing it with one team or a division, but being able at a moment's notice in what I call those gotta show me moments, who you are and what you have, which happens year to year and quarterly, to being able to do it at any of the 32 teams and frequently. You don't do that overnight.
Exactly. Justina, when they say that this league is about relationships and connections, it's totally 100% sure true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously you need to know what you're talking about. You have to be, a talent, which there's so many people around the country and around the globe who, cover not just the NFL, but in general, offering their, perspective in the work and their work ethic. But, being an insider, in addition to not just, saying what is happening daily, but trying to have a different depth of insight and also presenting that news first is a whole different challenge. And having the, you know, confidence and courage to put it out on Twitter, knowing that it's right.
Mhm.
And even when people challenge it or Different reporters try to split hairs on how something is presented, that you remain 10 toes down on what it is that you're saying. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just happened with the Jonathan Taylor thing where people were like, oh, he wasn't really offered, he wasn't receiving offers, they weren't significant. And then, a day after the deadline passes, now people do understand, yes, there was a second team. We weren't making that up. And he did get offers. The Colts may not have accepted it, but they were offered to what, the Dolphins and the Packers felt like was, enough for them, for a team that they know wants to get rid of their running back.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Josina, what is the best thing and the worst thing of your job? The thing that you love and the thing you say, okay, maybe it needs to get better with the time, or it's a little bit more hard.
I would say that I love interacting. I love being out there and interacting with people, whether it's in the studio or just in the field, meeting the new faces every year that come in the league, getting to see the people I already know, reaffirming those relationships, just being out and about. Even though I'm an extreme homebody and I spend a lot of time at home,
Hmm.
it's because I'm refueling from constantly being out there, and just keeping my eye on notifications throughout a 24-hour day. But so I would say that is the best part. And then the toughest part, I just think over the years and dealing, with the career and just learning over time, not just, being dominant at the hard skills, which is, and I mean that figuratively when it comes to the breaking news exclusives and interviews and stuff like that, but just dealing with the politics of, the industry, much as is the, NFL about connections and relationships. So is journalism and what we do.
Hmm.
Everything is not a meritocracy in our industry or in this world. And, a lot of it can be who you are. And who you know. And if I were to use a track metaphor, you can easily be in lane 8, not because you're not the best
Yeah,
at any given place, but because of the politics.
exactly. Yeah.
And you can also be in lane 4 alternately because of the opposite.
Hmm.
And that's just how it goes. But I think the main thing that I've learned over this time as I've been covering and doing being a professional journalist now for 23 years is I would just say, the thing that I lean back on is, no matter where I am, no matter who I'm working for, my relationships, my knowledge, and my confidence travels with me.
Hmm. That's
Do you know what I
amazing
mean?
words. Yeah, yeah,
I know you were buffering there. Yeah, it travels with me, and it doesn't matter who you work for. All of that comes with you. At the same time, it's taking time to notice the politics of everything, and taking more of a 4D view as opposed to burrowing ahead in just what you can produce. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Josina.
Hmm.
Josina, you know the league is growing internationally. When we met last December, you say, "Oh, it's a guy from Spain here." We start to talk. It's been games in London. It's been games also in Germany. A lot of colleagues came to cover here in Europe. First question: you see yourself coming to Europe, covering some special game, some big game, and also you see a big game coming to Spain in the next years?
I would love to come abroad to cover an NFL game. I think that would be a great experience. I have not done it yet. I don't think I'm tabbed to do that right now,
Mhm.
for this upcoming season. I think hopefully before the end of my career, I will have the opportunity to do that. In addition to that, I would love to cover the Olympics in Paris. So I need to still
Yeah.
stay on top of my contacts, for that. Um, but as far as Spain, I think it would be a great, place, for that as well. I have so many, friends who are currently in Spain. My hairdresser just got back from a trip to Spain. I just did an interview with Aaron Gordon, who was just in
Mhm.
Spain and Malaga, I believe. And I have another friend, Bruce, who was in, I think, Maribel, and really have been talking about how just this has become, at least I think even particularly this off season, a destination place for a lot of people vacationing.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's the Maldives and it's like Dubai. And I feel like this year I've heard a lot of people say they're going to Spain. And even when I ran into the linebacker Micah Parsons from the Cowboys, I was on the plane.
He
He
was in
happened to,
Barcelona.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he was there, and I actually he was just getting back from there and coming into town to go to the white party with the guy who's the owner of Fanatics over there in
Mhm.
the Hamptons or whatever. So he was just saying he got back from there, so that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Josina, I know you don't have a lot of time. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for being with
of
me,
course.
Josina, for being with the Spanish world, with all the Spanish fans and Latino Americans.
Yeah.
And hope to see a lot of news, breaking news from Josina Anderson, and hope to see you soon in New York, in Brooklyn, or in the MetLife Stadium.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show. You're always a pleasure to, talk with. You always have really good energy and a spirit about covering the team. So happy to come on your show.
Thank you, Josina. Gracias.
Yes, gracias también.
Chao, chao.